She stood in the middle of my pasture with a bright orange safety vest, pointed at my fence, and smiled like she had already won. "Go ahead," she said. "By tomorrow morning, this land won't look like yours anymore." I looked past her and counted 3 trucks rolling through my open gate. Workers jumped out with poles, boxes, and heavy machines. Nobody asked for permission. Nobody even looked at me. "What do you think you're doing?" I asked. A man holding a clipboard shrugged. "HOA project, sir. We're installing new solar security lights around the community." I stared at him for a second. "This isn't your community," I said quietly. "This is my pasture." Before he could answer, the HOA president walked closer with a stack of papers in her hand. Her name was Linda Brooks, and everyone in the county knew exactly how she treated people. If she wanted something, she acted like the law changed just for her. She laughed. "Your pasture sits next to our neighborhood. It ruins the view at night." The board voted. "These lights are being installed." I folded my arms. "But board can vote to paint the moon purple if it wants. It still doesn't own my land." Some workers stopped and looked at each other. Linda's smile disappeared. "You don't understand," she snapped. "I already signed the approval." "You signed approval for land you don't own?" She ignored the question and waved her hand. "Keep working." Within minutes, machines started digging holes. Tall metal poles were pushed into the ground. Expensive solar lights were lifted into place one after another. I pulled out my phone. Linda immediately pointed at me. "Don't even think about threatening my workers." "I'm not threatening anyone." "Then who are you calling?" I looked straight into her eyes. My attorney. For the first time that afternoon, her smile became a little smaller. Still, she didn't stop. By sunset, 20 brand new solar lights stood across my pasture, like a row of giant metal trees. They looked completely out of place. Bright white panels reflected the last sunlight, while my cattle gathered at the far end of the field, watching everything in silence. Linda took pictures with her phone. "Now this place finally looks respectable." I almost laughed. "You've clearly never been around cattle." She rolled her eyes. "They're cows, not wild animals." I didn't answer, because I had raised this herd for almost 15 years. I knew exactly how they reacted to strange objects placed in their territory. The workers packed their tools and drove away. Linda climbed into her SUV, lowered the window, and gave me one last warning. "If you touch a single light, I'll sue you for every dollar." Then she drove off. The pasture became quiet again. The sun disappeared. The lights slowly came alive. One by one, they flooded the entire field with bright white light. The cows lifted their heads. None of them started eating. None of them laid down. They simply stared. I leaned against my fence and whispered to myself, "You should have asked who really lives on this land." About 30 minutes later, the oldest bull took one slow step toward the nearest light. Then another. Then another. The entire herd followed behind him. And in the distance, I heard the first loud metallic crash. The first metal pole bent so hard it snapped at the base. A loud crash echoed across the pasture. Then another. Then another. The lights were never a danger to my cows. They were just strange objects sitting in the middle of the land. They had claimed this home years ago. The old bull rubbed his massive head against one pole. Another cow pushed a second one while trying to move around it. Calves ran through the field in confusion, because the bright lights had turned the night into daytime. Within minutes, one expensive solar light after another hit the ground. Glass shattered. Solar panels cracked. Metal poles twisted like thin sticks. I stood behind the fence and recorded everything. I never touched a single light. Not once. By sunrise, every single one of the $40,000 lights was lying flat in the mud. Some had hoof prints across the panels. Others had been dragged halfway across the pasture. It looked like a tornado had stopped by. At exactly 7:15 that morning, my phone exploded with calls. I answered the first one. Linda was screaming so loudly, I had to move the phone away from my ear. "You destroyed HOA property!" "No," I replied calmly. "Your property never belonged on my land. You owe us $40,000. I don't owe you a penny. I'm calling the sheriff." "Please do." She hung up. 20 minutes later, 3 sheriff's vehicles rolled through the entrance. Linda arrived behind them with 2 HOA board members. She pointed at me like she had already won. "That's him!" He admitted everything. The sheriff looked at me. "Morning." "Morning, Sheriff." Then he asked the only question that mattered. "Did you touch those lights?" "No." He turned toward the security cameras mounted on my barn. "You still recording 24 hours a day?" "Every second." Linda's face changed. "What cameras?" I smiled. "The ones you've ignored every time you entered my property." We walked inside the barn office. The sheriff watched the footage from the previous day. It clearly showed Linda ordering contractors through my locked gate after workers cut my chain without permission. Then it showed them digging holes, pouring concrete, and installing every light. Later that night, the cameras showed my cattle naturally walking through their own pasture. No one chased them. No one scared them. No one damaged the lights. The animals simply reacted to foreign objects placed where they lived. The sheriff paused the video. He slowly turned toward Linda. "Did this man ever give you written permission?" She stayed silent. "Did you have a court order?" Silence again. "Did you have any legal right to enter this property?" Nothing. One HOA board member quietly whispered, "You told us the land belonged to the association." Everyone heard it. The sheriff closed his notebook. "Ma'am, this pasture isn't inside your HOA." Linda tried to interrupt. "We voted." He raised his hand. "Your vote has no power outside your neighborhood." Then he looked at the contractors. "Who ordered you to cut the gate?" Every finger pointed at Linda. That single moment changed everything. The sheriff arrested Linda for criminal trespassing, destruction of private property, and filing of false police reports after she claimed I had vandalized HOA property. The county later investigated the HOA. They discovered Linda had spent HOA money without legal approval, signed fake authorization papers, and ignored warnings from the association's own attorney. Within 2 months, she resigned. Several board members were removed. The HOA's insurance refused to pay for the destroyed lights because they had been installed illegally. Instead, the HOA paid to remove every broken pole, repair my pasture, replace my gate, and cover my legal fees. A few weeks later, many of Linda's former supporters came to my ranch. Not to argue, to apologize. One older neighbor looked at the repaired field and quietly said, "We believed the loudest person in the room," instead of the one telling the truth. I shook his hand. Truth doesn't need to shout. It only needs time. The pasture slowly returned to normal. The cattle grazed peacefully. The nights became dark again, just as they had always been. People often ask if I regret not stopping those workers before they finished. I always give the same answer. When someone is so sure they own what isn't theirs, sometimes the best lesson comes after they finish making the mistake.